Okay. I'd like to complete assignment 1.2 and 1.3 today. I don't have a lot to add to either of them. Assignment 1.2 had more vocabulary. Are there any vocabulary terms that you wanted to ask me about in 1.2? Any vocabulary terms you want to ask me about in 1.2? Okay, that works for me. I would like to point out a couple of terms in 1.2. First, draw a little line. The dependent variable is also known as the responding one. Independent is also known as manipulated variable. So independent is also known as manipulated. Dependent is also known as responding. How many bad words can I say in class before I get fired? What are the two variables?
The number of words you said.
Yeah, what?
The number of words you said.
The number of bad words that I said. And what's the other variable?
If you get fired.
Getting fired or not. One of those is binary, fired, not fired. The number of words is quantitative. It's a quantity, some number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many bad words before I get fired? So, I say one bad word, see if I got fired. Say another bad word, see if I got fired. Which one of these things is in my control? The bad words or the fired? The bad words, because I'm in charge of my language, I get to decide that, so I'm manipulating that. That's manipulated. Now, the system that I'm testing, our school system, will respond by firing me eventually. So whether or not I'm fired is the responding variable. Right? I manipulate the number of bad words, the system will respond by firing me or not. Are we okay with this? Manipulated and responding? And we say that whether or not I got fired depends on how many words. So that's the depending part. Okay. I have one last vocab term to tell you, and this is kind of an important one. Modeling. Please look over here. These are all solar house models. These are all solar house models. So you can see that they're modeling like little windows and little doors and little chimneys and little leaves. We'll be doing this assignment later in the year. But this is the right time to make a distinction, because these are a model and they're kind of a different sort of model. These are a model in the sense that they make something big but small. It's like a smaller version of something big, like a model. Like, did any of you ever build model cars when you were a child, or like those little plastic kit cars you buy in a box and you paint them? Is that a dated thing? We did that in my generation. Kids your age don't do that, right?
Oh, the thing with planes.
Model airplanes?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, my boy has like drones and stuff. Okay. Yeah, it's a brave new world, children. So these are a model in the sense that they're a small version of a house, but some of these are a model in the scientific sense and some are not. Raise your hand if you know what a green roof is. Green roof. Like plants growing on the roof. Maybe seen pictures or in real life. There's a couple in Santa Barbara actually. Anybody know how those work? What's the point of a green roof? Nope.
Looks cool.
Yes, it's a side benefit, but that's not the point. Yes?
Reduces air pollution.
Maybe, but they have a more direct benefit to the homeowner.
Protection from the warm weather.
Kind of, they're good insulation, but they do something special when it's really hot. Something about plants. Anybody ever notice how, like, if you're like walking on the sidewalk and it's really hot, and then you walk into a park, it'll feel like cool and shady and breezy? Plants do this thing where they breathe out water, and like when your forehead sweats, when liquid water turns to water vapor, those water molecules take away energy. They're more excited now, so they took away heat. And so you cool down. It's called evaporative cooling. Raise your hand if you've heard of evaporative cooling, physics, sweating. This looks like a green roof. You can see that the green and yellow plastic fake plants look a lot like if you had a garden on the roof, right? Visually, this represents a garden on the roof. But functionally, these do not evaporate very well. They're not really good at getting rid of water. They don't actually do evaporative cooling. This is just foam. It doesn't absorb water, it doesn't evaporate very well, it just stays wet. If you poured water on this, it would not cool off the house. So, it's visually a representation of a green roof, but it's not functionally a representation of it, because it doesn't do evaporative cooling. This one does. See that? Little piece of aluminum foil in a cutout of the roof with little pieces of terry cloth. You all know that towels are really good at taking away water because they make water evaporate really quickly because they have a lot of surface area. Do you all know that's how towels work? They take the water off your head and then they help it evaporate in the bathroom so you're ready to go tomorrow. So check that out. This one, that looks nothing like a green roof, is a perfect functional model of a green roof. In the science world, you take something complicated and you study its functionality in the model. You need that key word. In the science world, models are about function. So this is a green roof model. In the science world, models are simplifications of something complicated that let you study a function. So like we can't do climate experiments because we all live on the same planet that we're doing the experiment. So instead we can build computer models that work like the variables in our climate so that we can study the function of climate. You make something to study the relationships that function. Okay, this is boring. Last call for vocab. On 1.2. If you have no vocab questions, I'm moving on. Okie dokie. We only have a couple of study goals. I can just say a couple of things, but your book did fine. There's one underlying idea in assignment 1.2 that you might want to write at the top of the paper. Environmental science is not like the other sciences. Environmental science is not like the rest. Nothing that you've learned in the other science classes really transfers to environmental science. Environmental science is pretty wacky. Environmental science is totally different. It's a distinct study. So I want to show you in 11 through 16 some ways that environmental science is different. Like number 11, environmental science includes values. Your book told this story. Your book told a story about Mono Lake, which is right here, which is right next to Yosemite, kind of north of Mammoth. How many of you have been to Mono Lake? It has those tufa towers. They're like little sand castles, kind of. Mono Lake's pretty cool. I live right next to there in the summers. All of these mountains have a lot of snow, and when the water drains out, they used to fill up Mono Lake. But sometime in the early 1900s, we started to plug all of those streams and pipe all that water over to Los Angeles, so Mono Lake has dried up. That's the story of Mono Lake. And as Mono Lake started to dry up, all the seagulls couldn't nest anymore, because there was like these islands that used to be protected, but when the lake dried out, coyotes could go out to the islands and eat all the baby seagulls. Here's where environmental science is like all the other ones. Once you understand what's happening, now it's time to figure out what we value as a society. The other sciences don't really seem to do that. Like when physics figures out what's inside of an electron, it's not really a question of values, it's just like, oh neat, there's whatever inside the thingamabobber.
So you're saying that environmental science, kind of want to say is a tiny bit more like opinion-based, because people can like, because information is given to the people, but they can choose to like regard it or not, like it's hard to disregard what's inside of an electron rather than like
Yeah, I mean,
water.
yes and no. Like, all sciences have social values, so I'm not suggesting that the other sciences are pointless or anything, but I do mean to say that in environmental science, we always have to include values as we absorb environmental information. Like, the question now becomes, do I care about the seagulls or do I care more about Los Angeles, and how much is property value worth compared to seagulls? And that just becomes this really weird esoteric value decision. Like, environmental science helps us make better decisions, but we still need to, like, environmental science always starts to flirt with public policy and flirt with economics, and usually it flirts with social justice. I think that's what a lot of my kids actually get kind of turned on about in this class, is that it like connects to other things in the world. It's not just a science that's a study of a thing that's over there, but it's like a study of a thing that gets at the heart of like what we all value. I think that's kind of unique. Like if you go to biology and you find out how your lungs work, when you leave, it's like, that is knowledge about my lungs. And you can like leave that on the table and then that's just stuff. But I feel like environmental science has like knowledge that kind of pushes you to think like, okay, so now what? Yeah. Anyway, there was that example about Mono Lake. I wanted to use it to raise this idea that environmental science includes values, but I'm going to move on. Unless there was a question. Hey, number 12. I always struggled to say this right. Science and belief are totally separate things. You probably understand that. I'm sure you all realize that belief systems like a religion are us making a decision about the world without direct evidence. Right? That's matters of faith. So you can't ask anybody to prove that their God is the right God. It's just a matter of belief, and that's okay. These are the matters of religion. No direct evidence. But science is very different, you know, we like find phenomena and then we try to investigate them by learning the variables, figuring out what's happening. Process of discovery. And do you all know there's back to school on Thursday? I want you all to know that I guarantee at least one parent will trigger me during back to school in every one of my periods this Thursday night. Does everybody know what question of belief in science one of your parents is guaranteed to ask me during back to school night this Thursday? What do you think they're going to ask me when your parents come to see me back to school night? A question about belief in science. Yes, it is the question all of a sudden. Oh, do I believe in climate change? Or do I believe that humans are responsible for changing the climate or something like humans are warming the earth or something? Children, I know what people mean when they ask me this. It's something that we can all say conversationally, but it does illustrate a really big problem. I really want to get to this really quickly. And this is a touchy subject for me. I'm warning you, it is a trigger for me, so bear with me, but hear me out. Bear with me, but hear me out. I think the climate change thing is a perfect example of this dichotomy. We should not discuss science as a belief system. We also should not discuss religions as a science. It is so frustrating for a religious person when I'm like, yo, give me the evidence about your God. And you try to like out-logic their religions. How many of you have ever seen these arguments or been on either side of these arguments? It is so ugly. Because the whole point of religion and belief is that you don't need the analytical part. There's just at some point you have to, matters of faith, step into the abyss, make a move in the dark, do the bull dance, feel the flow, go with your gut. And then one of your parents is going to ask me if I believe climate science. And what am I supposed to say? Like, I'd never thought of it as a belief system. Like, it's just like a body of science. It's not a belief. There's like interpretations of evidence. So I will tell your parents the same thing every night. And they're going to come home and tell you Jose's a jerk. I don't know how you go to that class. Are you all ready for this? It happens every time. I'll give you a preview of Thursday. Mark my words. Ask your parents if it happened, okay? I want to be in a monkey suit. I have a tie. Like really nice Spanish leather shoes, handmade, super nice. Standing up in the front, trying to look presentable and respectable. Hide the whiskey breath. And your mom or your dad is going to be like, hi, I'm so-and-so's parent. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I totally know them. And then, so tell me, do you believe in climate change? And I'll be like, oh, I knew that was coming. Thank you for asking. I'll say, well, I have a really broad scientific education. I have multiple bachelor's degrees in different types of science. I've been to global conferences on climate. I work on active research projects on climate. And I do understand the science very, very well. But while we're at it, no, I don't believe in rabbits. And your parents are going to be like, what? And I'll be like, yeah, you asked me if I... And I said, yeah, no, I do understand the science of climate change very well. I will be teaching your kids about climate change. It's really simple science. It's really straightforward. It's old science, surprisingly. There's really nothing new to talk about. But if you want to talk about beliefs, I just don't believe in rabbits. Isn't it crazy that people believe in rabbits? And a lot of times your parents are like, yeah, bro. And they just walk out, but sometimes they engage, and I love that. How many of you would like to convince me that I should believe in rabbits? Come on, hit me. I don't believe in rabbits. Go.
They're real. We see them in our yard all the time.
Nope, I don't know what you're seeing, but this whole rabbit thing has got to end. Yes?
What kind of animal is Bugs Bunny?
I think he's a funny-looking cat.
I showed you a picture of a rabbit. What do you think it was?
I would think you have maybe a weird chihuahua. Maybe it's been doctored. Maybe these photos are all conspiracy. China to ruin my economy. Go ahead. Prove to me that rabbits are real. If they're real, how can you prove it? I don't know what you have, but I don't know what makes you think that's a rabbit. Yeah.
So you said that if you saw a picture of a rabbit, it'd look like a weird cat or a weird chihuahua, but if we actually look up the word rabbit and you see what pops up when the word rabbit shows
You're a
up.
sucker. You can like Google climate change and that comes up. Doesn't make it real.
Theoretically, if you compare the DNA between what you say is a weird chihuahua and an actual chihuahua, and they didn't correlate, then what would you say?
DNA, Diashme. I don't buy this. All those scientists are getting rich, lying about the existence of rabbits. Everybody knows that. Yeah.
What do you believe in place of would be?
Oh, I believe in crystals and not vaccinating my children. And I believe that seatbelts are for suckers. And I believe in curing diseases with leeches. And crop circles. I believe in crop circles. Aliens. They're mapping their landing sites. Yeah.
Do you believe the birds are actually government drones?
Yes.
Duh. I want to illustrate something for you because we could get carried away, but we don't need to stretch this out. You can't make me believe anything. You can't make me believe anything. So you could have something that's a complete and utter scientific foregone conclusion, an old, tired out given, like that thing is a rabbit. And nobody would debate it. Who in their right mind would debate that rabbits are rabbits? Anybody can. You can debate whatever the F you want. When you make matters of understanding about belief, you're on your own. Intellectually, this is a non sequitur. We got nothing to talk about anymore. You'll never convince me to believe in rabbits if I don't want to. It is so easy. I could blame conspiracies, I could blame the Chinese government, I could blame whatever I want. You would never, ever, 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 ever make me believe something I don't want to believe. By the way, I could actually believe it and lie about it. Like, do I actually not believe in rabbits? Or am I just saying that? The wacky thing about this whole believe climate science is like honestly the basics of climate change, like I'll give you a slideshow later. I got like a 3-day lesson on climate change. It's like on point. The basics about how like some gases wobble and trap heat into kinetic energy and then they restabilize their electrons and that radiates heat. Like that goes back to like the 1800s. Like the guy who figured that out, I can't show you a photograph because it was before photos. Like greenhouse gases were experimented with at a time when scientists wore like collared shirts and had big beards and like before Darwin, we could play, like around the time of Darwin, we could play with different gases to change the atmosphere, to change temperature of the space underneath the gases. This is such old stuff. People started measuring greenhouse gases before the surge in fossil fuels because they saw it coming. I'm not kidding. Like we have old records that show how greenhouse gases go up and max temperature going up. Like this stuff is so played out. But I just be like, nope, I don't believe. You could just not believe whatever you could like not believe in engineering. But like nobody's gonna walk out on the bridge and like cut the cables. Because like that's pretty reckless and you're standing on the bridge and you would feel those consequences. Nobody's gonna like walk into the dentist office and be like, I don't believe in these instruments, just give me a hammer and just start like pounding away. Like, nah, you know, you could choose to believe or not believe whatever you want, but you'd have to be stupid to like walk up to a scientist and say that they're wrong just because of belief. Like, I just believe. So I don't believe that's a rabbit. So I gotta be really, really careful. Like science, you either understand it or you don't. That's fine. That's fine. I don't understand all sorts of science. Most science, I don't understand it. Science is really big. I just got my little slice of the pie. Understand or don't understand science? Sure. Belief doesn't belong in that conversation. It's nonsense. It's just not part of, I don't believe in rabbits, I don't believe in gravity, and I don't believe in Sasquatch.
What about the flat earth?
Another great example. Like, it's gotta be a fun exercise to just be like, nope, I don't believe you.
Look.
And everybody's like, it's flat, dude. Like, that's gotta be so much fun, you know, to like walk into a room of like intelligent people and they're like, you can see the sun hitting the cloud, but not because it's round. And you're like, nope, I don't believe you. Like, that's gotta be so fun. Every year there'll be somebody that gets kind of heated about the rabbit thing, and then I really thrive in that environment. I'm like, oh no, I don't believe, nope. Conspiracy.
Do you ever actually end up saying that it's not about belief, it's about scientific fact, or do you just keep them on the line until they freak out and walk away?
I have to be a lot more careful with your parents because they could complain and get me fired and I have a mortgage. My mom's a cancer survivor, so we can't get health insurance. Like I could never lose this job, so I got to be pretty careful with your parents. Yeah, I'm somebody was looking for this.
What?
I found somebody's ring. I've taken it pretty far, and I think it's a fine illustration. You can just pick anything you want. Like, you don't want it to be rabbits, say you don't believe in whatever. Like, people say like they don't believe in World War II. And like, you can actually say that. In this country, you can get paid for saying that. There's people who like sponsor the radio show of some guy who says he doesn't believe in World War II. Or he doesn't believe that the Nazis, you know, killed a bunch of Jews or whatever. You just say that. Go ahead.
Wait, he doesn't believe in the Holocaust or World War II?
Right. A lot of people find the facts of the Holocaust to be somehow debatable. And the rest of us are like, wait, but you can like,
Wait, no,
this is like,
is it the war, the actual war, or the Holocaust?
I'm speaking about what I have interpreted other people to be saying, so I don't want to get it wrong and then misquote, but at least the facts of the Holocaust. And my point is not like what a logical argument that is. It's an example of you can believe or not believe whatever you want. It's got nothing to do with understanding reality. It's just a fun mental exercise. So watch, I'm going to get in a yelling match with at least one of your parents on Thursday night.
Can we like set them up for that? Can we like let them
It would be
like-
better if you didn't, but I can't stop it. Alright. Oh my god, number 13. Crop circles tell us that the public is a bunch of idiots. People jump to conclusions and they believe what sounds fun to believe. There was no scientific evidence to suggest that crop circles were made by aliens. There was no thoughtful interpretation that connected crop circles to aliens. Crop circles were never proof that they're... How many of you know what I'm talking about, crop circles? How many of you had seen photographs of those before you saw your textbook? Just curious. So this was a fascinating moment. I was alive during the crop circle craze. Apparently it's like random farmers bored at night. You can get, and then it became a bunch of math students. In South America, there was like all these math students that started doing rad like fractal crop circles, like just doing cool math and like measuring stuff and like making patterns.
Wouldn't you do that? Like pay people to be like, come see my like alien crop circle.
Okay. Oh yeah, if anybody wants to be separated from their money, I can help you with that. But you take like a big 2x4 and you tie a rope to either end and you hold that part. And then you walk and you push down the 2x4 and then you knot that to a stake of a fixed radius. So then that kind of walks you in a circle like a big protractor. And you know, when grass is at the right stage, it's really easy to topple because grass is inherently hollow. That's when it starts to dry, it snaps, it's very easy to break. So at the right stage of maturation, when the grass has already been harvested or whatever, I don't know how that works, you walk through it like this with a 2x4, you can just knock it all down, you can make really fast circles. And if you move that stake based on a pattern, then you can make different size circles, then you can like lay it all out on graph paper, and you get like 40 college kids, and you can do like a big ass field in one night. Apparently it all started in Europe, in England, somewhere in northern England, one of the Chestershires, where like some bros were like bored at night and they were like trying to stay awake to watch if there was rabbits coming across the road or some BS about like who was stealing all their grains or whatever. I don't know what the deal was, but they were bored at night. I know they were bored at night. And because they were bored, they started like knocking it over and win, and they wanted to like make a line down the middle. So first they made straight lines to break up the field. And then once they had the straight lines, they were just like bored at night, like, yo, this is time. So they started making circles, and people started to drive by and go, oh, aliens! And the farmers were just like doing their farmer job, and they just had their heads down and weren't even paying attention. So it started to spread like all over the news, and people were like, there's no other explanation, it has to be aliens. And then I guess when the farmers saw all these people showing up in their town, they're like, wow, people are really funny. Like, they started making them on each other's farms, and then started like calling other neighbors, like, bro, let's go to your house. And so they would like get together and make more interesting patterns. And then they started to like show up in like the United States, and like Mexico, and like down in Chile. Because like people figured it out, and then all over the news, it's like, oh my God, they're coming. And there was like a year where it like built up. Have you all heard that there's like stuff on Instagram where people want to barge into Area 51?
Yeah.
Okay, like that. There was like, you know, primitive social networks where people got crazy and were like quitting their jobs and cashing in their retirement, selling their houses, and like trying to move to these places that had a lot of crop circles because they wanted to see the aliens. People would like spray paint on their roof, like, take me with you, like, I want to have an alien baby, like. And it all like, just like blew over. I guess the farmer's wife was pissed that he was out at night, so she confronted him once and was like, I know you're cheating on me with that tramp down the road. And the farmer's like, no, it's just me and Jerry. We just stay up late and we drink and we like knock over grass. And so she got mad at him. She's like, do you know what you're doing to our roads with all this traffic? And so the guy held a press conference where he like comes out wearing like dusty ass farm gear and his hands are all like mangled because he's an old farmer. And he's all like chapped and stuff. He's quiet. He's super thick, like Northern England accent. And he's like, it's just really boring sometimes staying up late, and me and Jerry, we just kind of things got carried away, got away from us. 40 years of farming, you know, we haven't had a lot of excitement around here. And so I found this confession on YouTube. You may be able to find it. I looked for it a couple years ago and I couldn't find it anymore, but hopefully somebody's reposted it. Crop circles, man. People, A, they believe what they want to believe. B, they jump to conclusions. You know, like, people are intellectually not very rigorous. So, like, you're explaining climate change, but it's simpler to say Chinese conspiracy. That way I get to keep driving my car tight. And we believe what we want to believe, and we don't really want to know all the details. Yeah?
I know this is like another issue that like I feel like got like a lot of people like scared. What was the whole like Y2K thing? Didn't people
Oh!
think it was gonna end? Like that was kind of
I happen to be a half-ass expert in that, for one thing because I'm really old. For another thing because my father works in technology, and actually he was, at the time, in charge of a whole bunch of data, like huge servers. And there really was like a really frightening fault in many fundamental software systems that after 1999, the next number on a 2-digit scale is zeros. But like, that's not sequential to 99, it's not 100. Many software systems didn't step up to 3 digits from 2 digits. And so the Y2K thing was actually a really scary thing in financial systems. And so I was awake for that New Year's. I usually go to sleep early, but
there was like the ball drop and people were just like
not really, like I like printed out all my bank statements so I could prove that I had money before, and like I had like a big stack of cash because I was like, what if the banks don't work anymore? Like, people were really panicked. That was an interesting thing. It is a good example of how like information didn't really go very far. Like, but everybody was nervous. Everybody was nervous. That was a different. I think that's kind of different. All right. Hey, number 14. Stand up. Y'all know this is a yardstick? Okay. Let's measure this kid. Face the audience. Beautiful. So I'd say he's 1.6 yards. Is that about right?
Sure.
Yeah, 1.6 yards. Oh, we could turn this around. Now we'll use the inches. $68 inches. I'm getting a little bit more accurate, aren't I? Everybody go with me so far? If you look closely, my yardstick has little lines drawn inside of every inch that are, wow, 16ths. Is that comfortable for you?
No.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah. 69 and 9/16. I'm getting more. 67 and 7/16. I'm getting more accurate. If I had a better ruler, I could measure him better, right? Are we clear with that? Can we agree that no measurement will ever be perfect because I can always find a better ruler? Here's a funny thing that happens a lot when the public hears about environmental science. They go, you keep changing your numbers. And the answer is not that I keep changing my numbers, I'm measuring better. Do you all understand that if I have a better ruler, I can give you a more accurate measurement? So like every day, if I make a better ruler, I can take a better measurement. The public got so pissed that we predicted sea level rise wrong 40 years ago. And like, yeah, we have better data now about the ocean. It's not like we just stopped learning about the ocean. We're measuring things better. We're measuring temperature better, we're measuring movement better, we're measuring sea ice and land ice better. Number 14, the public does not understand that measurements keep changing because our tools keep improving. The public gets really mad, but that's a big whoop. That as our instruments improve, our numbers change and our conclusions change. And we could do 16 and then call it a wrap on this assignment anyway.
You're not gonna do 15?
I wasn't planning to, but I can. What's your question?
No, I was just wondering if you forgot how to count.
No, I think I had strategically decided not to add anything. Pseudoscience is just like crazy nut job stuff that has science words but isn't science. Like my neighbor tried to sell me a water filter that would change the pH of my water so I wouldn't get cancer. And I was like, lady, do you know that I'm a biologist? She's like, what are you talking about? She's like, you know how like the pH of water make more acidic and you don't get cancer. And I was like, you say science words, but that's not science. Pseudoscience. Rare earth phone cover so that the radiation from your phone won't give you brain cancer. You say science words, but that's pseudoscience. All right, number 16. Everything you've heard about the traditional scientific method is bogus because environmental science is different. Environmental science is different. Here's one way that it's different. Please look up. It's a really big, complicated experiment that we're living in right now. My favorite metaphor, we learn about the environment as if you had to use your own body to learn about anatomy. Do you understand my point? Well, that's our environmental science, though. We're like, what happens when you get rid of the sea otters? Like, oh crap, the ocean dies. And that's just like, what happens if you get rid of your liver? Like, oh crap, your blood rots. Like, we are learning about the earth as if you were trying to figure out anatomy by cutting yourself open. That's really all we get. We're living in an experiment. It's really complicated. There's a bazillion variables. Everything's connected in that environment. All the parts are moving. The time scales are hell of long. And we can never do a controlled experiment. Raise your hand if you've heard of a controlled experiment. What's a controlled experiment that could answer whether humans are changing the climate? Yeah.
You have two places, one with humans and one without humans, and then you see,
Yep.
does the environment change?
Yep. So we could settle this question easily if we use the traditional scientific method. No big deal. We just take our spare Earth, have no humans on it, and compare the temperature to our other Earth with the humans on it. Easy peasy. This is controlled experiment. This is the science you were all taught in the 7th grade. This is how we figure out whether the medicine works. And we can't do regular old science or environmental science because we don't have a control group, too many variables, the time frames are too long, we're living in the experiment. Anybody want to talk more about assignment 1.2? I'm available to talk more 1.2. 1.2. Okay, 1.3 goes even faster. Take out 1.3, please. I plan to use my last 10 minutes. You all want to pack up. Is it only 4 minutes? Fine, we'll use the words at least. Vocab?